Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to look at yet another one of the Shadowlands systems. It's those oranges. Let's get into the Legos. The legendary system in the Shadowlands is bigger and bigger and bigger than you've seen before. We are going to see 200 legendary items come into the game at the launch of the Shadowlands, with no doubt more to come after. At the start of the game, you're going to be able to equip one, although they're clearly designed to work in synergy with each other, so expect later down the line that we will be equipping more than one, and they're taken from all kinds of places. In order for Blizzard to come up with the 200 Legos, they have had to borrow ideas from Torghast, from Legion Legendaries, from Azerite traits, and from tier set bonuses. Fully one half of the things are just Legion Legendaries and tier set bonuses of the past. Now, what that also means is they've toned them down to be about on par with tier sets. Blizzard has recently realized this, that the Legendaries are underwhelming. They're not really doing much for you, they don't add much gameplay, and you would much prefer, say, the Legion version of Cephas compared to the Shadowlands version of Cephas, as one of them is much more powerful and much more fun. So a post last week actually said that Blizzard have realised this, and they're going to be buffing the Legendaries. Now, unlikely to change in most cases is the effects of the legendaries, but what they will buff is the strength of the legendaries, although that does bring into question certain legendaries and how that will work. For example, one of the monk legendaries just adds another charge of roll. So when they say they're going to buff them, does that mean it will be 2 charges of roll, or will that legendary be replaced entirely? Hard to say. But to make things easy, our own Mr. Fingal has made an entire spreadsheet for you. It's linked down below. You can go in and check it. It contains all the info you'll need for your class's legendaries, including the generic ones, which are accessible to every single class and spec in the game, your class ones, which are available to all of the specs of your class, and then your spec-specific ones. So that's how it's going to work. You're going to have 4 class ones, usable by anything, then you're going to get 4 spec-specific ones on top of that as well. So there's plenty to choose from here, although right now it seems pretty clear, at least in our minds, that there is one really good one and the rest of them are not so great. What we've also included in the spreadsheet is the sources of these legendaries, because they are recipe based. You will need to get the recipe in order to construct them. That's going to be stage 1 of actually crafting your legendaries, as they are crafted, and some of them are a little all over the place. Recently it was about 50% of them didn't have a location, and then Blizzard just threw them all in Torghast, and it does feel, at least to us, that Blizzard ran out of places to have all these recipes drop because there's so goddamn many of them, and therefore just shoved them into Torghast in one way or another. You'll also note that some of them come from world bosses, which raises the question, and we haven't been able to confirm this yet, whether or not the world bosses are on the weekly rotation like we're used to, and if that recipe would then be 100% drop rate from that world boss. As you may remember, in Legion, one of the potion recipes was from a world boss, and that world boss did not appear for many weeks, and that could be a big problem if they go down that road again, especially if that drop is not 100%. Same question can be asked from the ones dropping from the end of dungeons. As it looks right now, the dungeon recipes are not 100% drop rate, so we'll have to wait and see on that one, guys. So the first stage, as I said, is getting the recipe itself. Then you need the resources to actually craft it. How is that done? Well, you're going to need a base piece of armor. That's going to be from the relevant constructionists. So a blacksmith is going to build the plate stuff, a leather worker is going to build the mail stuff and the leather stuff, etc, etc. You can have legendaries that go on your neck, on your rings, all that kind of stuff, excluding trinkets, and you'll be able to apply multiple effects. So a cloak, for example, can hold 4 different legendary effects. You'll only be able to apply one, but that means that you can have, if you, say, craft a legendary necklace, and then you get a really good necklace drop, and you're like, oh my god, you might be able to also put that effect on a pair of pants, so you can take that necklace off and still get that legendary bonus that you actually want. So that's a good thing. You're going to need Soul Ash. Soul Ash is the currency in order to craft these things, and this comes from your weekly Torghast runs. Now, this is separate from the Twisting Corridors, which is the Everlasting run, which is actually 18 floors. Instead, this works much more like Visions. So once you go into the main Torghast hub, on your left-hand side, you will see 6 doorways. Only 2 of those per week will be active. And on the right-hand side, you will see the Twisting Corridors entrance. The 2 that you get to do are then divided into layers. So you can only do 2 per week of the 6 available, and Blizzard will cycle through these, so you'll have 2 one week, next week another 2, and so on and so forth. And then it's divided into difficulty layers. The intention here is pretty clear. They do not want you reaching the maximum layer week 1, and that's going to be layer 8. And the way they're doing this is in order to access layer 2, you need to complete layer 1. In order to get to 3, you need to do 2, and so on and so forth, all the way up to level 8, which is the maximum now. And because these runs are only 6 floors each, the Torghast powers themselves play much less of a factor compared to your base gear level. So in week 1, you can expect to do some floors, gear up, come back the next week into a different area, and continue onwards. One thing that is really good here is that once you've completed a layer, so let's say you complete layer 5, layer 6 is universally unlocked across every other Torghast run. You don't need to do, say, oh, these 2 are open now. I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in one of them, and then go to the next one and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in that one. That is not how it works. Once you complete a difficulty level, that is universally unlocked for them all. What that means is if you want the maximum amount of Soul Ash from week 1, that's going to need 9 runs in week 1. You're going to have to do the full 8 runs to unlock all the layers and collect all the Soul Ash. And then in your next run, in the second wing, that will automatically be unlocked at level 8, so that needs 1 run. And then after that, it will simply be 2 runs per week to collect all your Soul Ash. So they have divided the Soul Ash up into these tiers. For each layer, you will get some amount of Soul Ash, and by layer 8, you will have collected 50 Soul Ash. What that means is if you go into a different wing and just do level 8, you will get all the Soul Ash available, which will be 50. There's 2 wings per week, which means a total of 100 Soul Ash per week, and it costs 100 Soul Ash in order to craft a legendary item. Now, let's go back to these base items for a moment. So they are item level based, and this will determine the item level of your legendary. This means that crafters, say your blacksmiths, they will get a recipe to build, say, Shadowghast shoulders. So these are a blank pair of shoulders. They contain no stats, but they are the item you need in order to apply a legendary effect to them. What this then incurs is that as they learn and craft more of those, they will unlock a higher item level base item, and then again unlock a higher base item level after that. So you might be thinking, which one shall I wait before I craft my legendary? What should I do here? Well, they've put in an upgrade system as well. So if you are doing some sort of cutting edge progression, or you would really like your legendary as fast as possible, you can take the low level base item piece, create a low level legendary, so you have it and you have the legendary effect, and instead of having to just recraft the legendary again every time the item level goes up, you can simply upgrade that item. And it looks to us like all you do is get the extra base item piece and apply it to it, and that will upgrade the item level. This is obviously because Blizzard does not want you to go out week 1, get your legendary, and be done for the entire expansion with it. You're going to steadily increase the power of these things via their item level and through their effects. So that is how that system's going to work. You'll also want to apply stats to them. This is made by inscribers. Inscribers, you have lots to do because you can also craft necklaces and things. Inscribers are going to craft these things called missives, and these missives are just base stats, and you can apply 2 of them to each legendary. So you'll have Missive of Crit, Missive of Verse, Missive of Mastery, Missive of Haste, and then when you go to craft your legendary, you'll be able to apply either Crit Haste, Verse Mastery, and this is really cool as well, because if you want one legendary effect that's the most powerful for multiple specs, but the stats that you want on them are different, you can craft multiple of the same legendary onto an item and just apply different stats to it. You can do whatever you want to do. There's a lot of swapping and changing going on with this system to allow for maximum flexibility. What these realistically are, they are tagged as legendaries, and the final power outcome that Blizzard provides may be up to what we would consider a legendary status, although it will no doubt be nowhere near something like Dragon Wrath or Thunder Fury or Warglaves. They're really hot swappable tier set bonuses. That's what they realistically are, and it's a good system. I quite like this. There's no big drawbacks to it. It's a little convoluted that you need to go and get recipes, and then you need to go here for Soul Ash, and then you need to go here for the missives to apply to it, and then you need to go over here to get the base item. But it's a very simple system once you actually get used to it, and it's nothing that should be of great alarm. It's certainly nothing like the conduit system or anything along those lines with some convoluted extra stuff that's unnecessary. Now, one thing we have noticed about this system, which is quite interesting, is that because they've borrowed so heavily from tier set bonuses and Legion legendaries in particular, is that it's become very apparent that in some cases, a fully statted out, geared up Shadowlands character isn't going to be as, say, strong or have the gameplay changing options, or gameplay advancements, I think is a more appropriate way, because a lot of the Legion Legendaries just advanced your gameplay. They didn't provide extra buttons and things, but they added some unique effects which made your gameplay more fun for the most part. Very little of the Legion Legendaries came under scrutiny for being boring, especially the ones that people actually wanted to use. And because there's also tier set bonuses, in some cases, such as Nighthold in particular, some classes had what would equate to 4 Shadowlands Legendaries effects as normal. If you include their tier sets and the 2 legendaries you could equip at the time, you basically had 4 Shadowlands Legendaries equipped on you that altered your gameplay in some way. So some people are probably going to be a little downhearted by that, but again, rest easy. Blizzard is buffing these legendaries in terms of power, and it should hopefully be a pretty interesting and cool system once it plays out. If I'm being honest, right now the system is really lackluster, not because of the crafting method, but because of the power associated with it. They're simply, like I say, some of these are Azerite traits, some of them come from glyphs. Literally, Cataclysm glyphs are now considered a legendary. Some of them just add a roll. Some of them have nice effects, but for the most part, they're passive bonuses, which we have an absolute metric ton of in the Shadowlands, with the like 400 Soulbind variations and conduits, and then the legendaries on top. So it should be a standout system when it's finally done, so fingers crossed for that one. That's your legendary system, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.